Alright, so we're rolling.
Oh, we are?
We are rolling.
Exciting.
It is exciting. This is your first
What the fuck
episode.
is this, skeleton model?
No, have you ever been to Disneyland?
Yeah.
California Adventure?
Mm-hmm.
When you get off of the Hollywood Tower of Terror, they just had a little box of a glow-in-the-dark skeleton.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you were telling me they had, like, eyeballs and shit. Was that
I got that at Pirates.
Oh, okay.
Pieces of 8.
Pieces of 8. Is it 7 pieces of 8? 6 pieces of 8?
Wouldn't it be 8 pieces of 8?
No.
No?
Pieces of 8 does not refer to the quantity of the pieces.
I'm not sure exactly what it is.
You can look it up
on
Wikipedia.
I've got the power of the internet on my hands.
It's like a real radio show. You can talk about shit you don't know anything about and just get on the internet and figure it out.
Yeah, like you know what you're doing. Just pretend like you're not getting on.
Right.
But let me... with that, welcome to Sequel Productions. I'm Matt Bonta.
I'm Cory Easley.
And Cory here is on his first episode here to chat with me. Because we chat. We've been chatting the last few times that he comes over. But and we sit here and we...
Totally wasted podcast. We have like 4 discussions that would have made...
internet. It broke the internet. What would have happened?
It broke the internet.
Like George Takei does.
That was George Takei.
I always thought it was George Takei too until...
Did he say it and it was Takei?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I heard him say it or whatnot.
Right.
It looks like Pieces of 8 refers to a Spanish dollar.
Huh.
So it's not like a certain amount of pieces of a
so
certain
it's just
number.
Like a reference to...
That's what it looks like. It says so.
The pieces.
On here.
Regardless of how many pieces there are.
It might, yeah, regardless.
I bet you if you scroll down further, you'll find something having to do with pirates.
Well, they're calling it an 8 real... Well, I mean, the Spanish dollar, you know, the pirates and the Spanish Empire and everything else like that. They're calling it an 8 real coin, or the piece of 8. I wonder if it's the amount of silver content in it?
Perhaps.
Spain, Mexico, Australia, United States. Fictional portrayals.
There you go.
Pirates of the Caribbean. 9 pieces of 8.
Oh, so it's way off.
Since these pieces were used to seal the goddess Calypso in her human form. Anyways.
Moving along.
So, Cory, we'll just jump into what I've been trying to jump into. This is actually the second episode of Season 2 of my podcast.
Moving right along.
Because I wanted to do one with everybody who's in the movie and just talk about their experience on it since there were so many new people. So my first episode was Iris and Varia.
Right.
Did you listen to that one?
I was entertaining. I knew because Iris is she's a firecracker, so she's fun to listen to because she just pops off with some oddball shit that
only a child could come up with.
Exactly, like it's stuff that you can't write. Kids are funny like that.
Kids are funny like that. It's funny because like they were always talking about like how much she likes Patrick, like she had a crush on Patrick or something. But talking to her, it seems quite the opposite. Especially in that podcast, like she just hates him.
Right. I think it's because when you're young like that, you have this like you're still in the ooh cooties zone where like mentally she likes Patrick as, you know, like maybe a brother or whatever.
Sure.
But if she likes Patrick more than that, then she has to be like, ew, Patrick's gross. Girls are especially like that.
Well, I mean, she's going into 7th grade. And I'm trying to think of, like, when I was in 7th grade, 6th grade even?
6th and 7th grade, you're knocking on being interested in the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely not. I want to say 6th grade was probably the height of my youthful age, or, like, the beginning of it.
Right.
Into full-blown fucking, you know, puberty and whatnot. But we're not going to go into that.
The destruction of mankind.
So I brought you in on this movie, Godsalt, that everyone has been talking about.
Which I appreciate. It was a lot of fun.
Was it?
It was.
Well, that's why you're here.
Yeah,
Beforehand, let's build up. Let's build the story.
Sure.
Let's build it going. So you wanted to chip in on something.
Yeah, I don't know, was it about a year or 2 years before Godsalt?
I have no memory of this.
Okay. You guys were still working on Street Meets that I had no idea you were actually doing at the time. Or you had just finished it, I think.
Just finished, or I mean...
Or maybe you were just
starting.
I don't remember
what end.
Exactly what end of it you were on, but I took some interest in making some film, and I didn't really have a place to start on my own, so I was like, I know Matt writes, so I'm going to call Matt up and I'm going to be like, hey, Matt, I know you guys are maybe doing some stuff because I heard you talking about making movies at one point when we ran into each other.
When did we run into each other?
We ran into each other
now my brain's starting to put things together.
Or maybe I just read something on Facebook.
No, I want to say that maybe we did run into each other.
The last time I remember seeing you after we got out of school was at the play, after that my little sister was in, I think. It was after we got out, I know that.
Oh.
By like 2 years.
Okay, so this is before I was married then. Okay, well, I'm thinking that I saw you somewhere else though, like not
possible.
at this school.
Yeah, that's possible. And I wouldn't recall where that is.
No, okay, so
but anyway.
Anyway.
So I just said, hey, if you're doing anything, hit me up if you need some help, whatever you need to do. And I was thinking, like, you need a star actor or...
Was that what you wanted to do, some acting?
I would have enjoyed some acting, but, I was open to everything. And I got a lot more enjoyment out of the behind the scenes stuff, doing some of the special effects and whatnot that we ended up doing. And it was funny because you were like, no, we're not really doing anything right now, but kind of laying off of that or whatever. What is what you told me? It's like, no, we're not doing anything right now. And I'm like, well, fuck, now I'm not gonna get to do anything. And Matt's like bailing on this whole thing as soon as I get interested in it, right? And then I don't remember how that rest of it happened. Did you call me or text me?
So up for Godsalt then?
Yeah, when you finally contacted me to actually do something.
So for Godsalt, I just kind of was filling in over my head, and I felt the need to reach out. The experience on Streaming's Pavement totally fucking was not quite exactly how I wanted to make a movie. And not to say Godsalt was. Godsalt was also almost entirely not how I wanted to make a movie. But as far as Streaming's Pavement goes, making that and making Godsalt were two completely different things. And Godsalt was more how I wanted to make a movie than Streaming's Pavement was.
Well, you're moving in the right direction.
With Streaming's Pavement, I'm basically the only person that... So first off, I wrote it. I wrote the entire screenplay myself. Patrick may have thrown in a couple of things. I know Mike Robinson wrote the Afghanistan scene.
Which was excellent, by the way. If we're not going to talk about that, I just want to say it's excellent.
And Greg might have edited my screenplay opposed to added anything.
Right.
One particular incident, there's a line at the end of the movie where Kelly's got the knife up to Justine, and she's like, I'm going to cut your girlie's tits off. And then she's like, if you got breast cancer, I'm actually doing you a favor. And Greg had deleted that out of my script before I went and printed them out. And then we did the script read-through, and we're going through the script read-through, and I'm thinking, where were those lines at that I wrote? Because I love those lines. I think they're funny. I think they're great. And I went back and looked. I was like, well, they're gone. I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, Greg, those aren't going. Those are fucking staying. And that, so that I wrote, and then I directed, and I produced, and I did,
You were in it.
I was in it, so I acted in it, and all, what special effects and makeup needed to be done that I could do. So, I was doing, 50 fucking things on this movie.
Sure.
And on top of that, Greg was essentially doing the majority of the directing. And I felt that maybe he was kind of pushing people out of directing, it felt like. And so, with Godsalt, I wrote it to where... Oh, by the way, let's try and keep this spoiler-free as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Because I had to stop and rewind and record over things, or delete things when I was talking with Iris.
Right.
She would say something, and it was like, well, now we've got to stop and start over.
Right. We'll try to be as inspecific as possible.
Yeah, and like the big one is really hard to avoid when you need to talk about it. The big one being, I can't even talk about it.
Can't even allude.
I can't even allude.
Well, then we just won't go there.
Yeah, but I'm so excited about it. I like talking about it. It's hard to not talk about something that's cool.
We can talk about it. Maybe we can do some post-premiere.
Oh, sure. After the movie comes out and everything like that, I can talk about people that have seen it and everything like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that'll be easier to talk about at that point.
But yeah, so with Godsalt, I was like, okay, I want to focus on directing it. It's my script. I wrote it front to back. And I want to direct it. So, because it's a cheese movie, there's this expanded universe of characters. So it's like Jones is in it, but I made sure that I'm barely in it so that I could focus on directing. And it's like, well, I also am going to need other people's help. So I reached out for you for special effects. Let someone else do that so that I don't have to worry about acting and doing the special effects and directing at the same time.
Right. And it worked. I was going to say it worked out really well that way, because I can't imagine that if you had spent as much time as I did doing what I was doing, what time you would have had to do the other things that need to be done. When you're scheduling everybody, you're making sure that we have the props we need for the most part. And
I never stopped buying props, and I'm still buying props. Clearly, I've got size now.
Yeah.
I love buying props. I love having just an assortment of everything.
Sure, and then that makes it so that you can write things without well, how are we going to do that, or where are we going to get one of these? If you've got a collection of shit that won't quit.
Exactly,
we don't have a warehouse full of props. There's some warehouses down in Southern California that are just there. Even the general public can come in and just rent props.
I love window shopping for weapons and various other cool things on Amazon, and I'll see something and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna buy that, and I'll get it, and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna put this in a movie.
Something to get some inspiration from it.
Absolutely.
But like I said, the amount of time I spent doing the special effects, the pieces that I was building, and some of the stuff that I did, maybe my timing sucked.
I don't even really know everything that you've done, so that's why we're here to talk about it.
Yeah, and the stuff that I did, it was like, man, you just because you had to handle scheduling, filming, and handling the actors. Just that, right?
I felt like putting a gun in my mouth at the end of every single day, and the day before a big day of filming. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
It was intense. It really was intense.
So let's go back. So, like I said, I needed help, so I reached out to you to help, do special effects. And funny thing is Dakota, you barely met. You maybe
I only worked with him maybe
once.
Once at
the rest stop.
At the rest stop, we worked together that time, and the rest of the time I had only heard about him or
seen him in the other movies.
In the other movies, but yeah.
Because Dakota, after Street Meets Pavement, so with Dakota, I really hate double covering ground here, but it's gonna happen anyways because you don't know all this. So when we made Dutch, it was essentially Greg and Dakota were the leads, those two and Olivia. And after everything was said and done and it was made and everything like that, Dakota was it seemed like he was extremely disappointed with the way it turned out. He's the sound was kind of shitty and everything like that. There's points where you can't really hear what we're saying, and there's things that you were you wanted us to say these lines, but then you covered it up with music, so you can't even hear what we were saying, so it didn't even really matter to begin with, and various things like that. And I was like, whoa, this is different. Usually everyone's excited that the movie's done and they're watching and everything like that, but he was just, and not in a dick way in any way
he's
whatsoever.
Critical of the work, which is hard not to be. When you see something that you've created and you go, okay, we're going to show this to people, what do I think of it? And as the people who are creating stuff we're creating this universe, and we're trying to build this place for people to see and be a part of, as viewers, you, as the creator, are going to be most critical of your work. You're going to say, well, I didn't like that, I didn't like this, but you could show it to somebody else, oh my God, how did you fucking do that? So that's what makes you feel good, is showing it to other people.
Yes.
Because you know what you really, really wanted it to look like, and you don't always get that. We're not fucking J.J. Abrams and with $1 billion budget.
Absolutely. And so, like, Dutch became, like, this abortion of ours. Like, Patriot Zombie in and of itself was something altogether. Like, that movie failed, but we were able to create something awesome out of it. Have you still not watched that?
I'm busy.
Well, I mean, you know, Patriot Zombie, a movie that we tried to make. And, like, every Friday night, we went over to this dude's place to make this movie. And it turned into, like, a drinking party. And then, like, at 1 a.m., we started filming. And it wasn't like we were drinking. It was, like Patrick and AJ would just start drinking, and everyone else is kind of like, we want to start making this. And like his sister would have a bunch of people coming over, and they were kind of fucking doing their thing before they would leave and go out clubbing and shit. So we're trying to work in this chaotic environment. And Dakota put it best on one of these older podcasts. He's like, that is the perfect way to describe how not to make a movie, or how a movie should not be made. So we spent like every weekend, one summer, at this one place, filming little by little, to eventually like start losing the people that are in the movie. They started to drop off, and like we stopped being friends with AJ and Jeannie and everything like that. And so we had all this footage, and I was like, okay, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna interview everybody, make a fake documentary, and that's our first full-length movie, hour and a half. And I think it's hilarious. I think it's funny because half of it's real, half of it's fake, and the stories are so crazy on both sides, you don't know which is which.
And I was watching some of the interviews on YouTube, or I think it was on YouTube. It was like, I don't know if I started watching it and didn't finish it, but people sitting doing the interview style stuff, like the special features, or kind of like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith thing where people are sitting in chairs. You know what I'm talking about? They talk about what happened and how it came down. But yeah, I couldn't tell the difference of who was. Because
who was lying, who was telling the truth?
Yeah, who's lying, who's telling the truth, who's talking about what really happened versus what was written for them at that point.
Well, nothing was written for the interviews. It was more of like, we're going to talk about this situation. Like, Patrick got arrested for reals in real life, so we had to change the scene that we shot. So that's one of those stories. Is like, is that made up? You know, did your guy really get arrested because you're here talking to him on this interview and everything like that? Opposed to, like, we lost Jeff, but we got to film all of his stuff. You never met Jeff. And be like, oh, well, let's just say that he got deported to Canada. And so it was just like, that's the most that was written for the interviews. It's like, this is what we're saying that will happen to this person.
This is just the baseline of the story.
Exactly. And so that's what Patriot Zombie was. Whereas Dutch was originally supposed to be a cheese movie. And so I'm moving from, because I used to live in these apartments a couple buildings down, me and Melissa, and we bought a house. So we had 2 weeks in here, and we were going to film that one weekend, this movie that I wrote, with cheese, with Patrick. And I'm talking to him on the phone, I'm texting him, I'm like, okay, go ahead, go pick up your suit, whatever you have to do at Savers. We're going to be back at my place and film the scene at the apartment, because I wrote a scene here in the apartment before we lost it. And then I never hear from him. That very evening, like, he was supposed to come over, talk to him, and then I didn't hear from him. Saturday comes, didn't hear from him. Never heard from him the entire time we're making the movie. Don't know what happened to him. Still don't really know what happened to him. I'm sure whatever it is,
one of these days it'll come out on podcast.
No, he probably doesn't even remember, because he's
lost.
He's up and down several different times, and this is what I hate about talking to him, is like, he'll remember things his own way,
differently than they actually happen.
Or
even differently than someone else remembers it, whether either side has the right story or not.
Sure. But he was not even willing to agree to disagree about the situation. He's like, no, you weren't there, or you were there, and this is how it happened. He's just very adamant about things. So, like, whether this was this time that he, fell off the wagon and did this thing or that thing, it was just one of those situations. Sure. So, didn't hear from him that weekend, so it's like, well, fuck, I've got to scramble to rewrite the movie. So, I rewrote the movie, and I don't want to say it was better than what I had originally written, but, like, I was actually able to pull out something that I thought was really good, despite all the troubles.
Right.
So, instead of being a cheese movie,
salvage something that was going to fail, you were able to change it.
I was able to change it, and like, I was having problems with the ending the entire time, and then right before filming, I came up with an awesome ending that I thought was awesome, at least. So we were able to shoot in the apartment the very last fucking weekend that we had it. Move to the house, start filming at the house, start filming here and there, and so we made Dutch, which was kind of like an aborted movie. And like I wrote it and Melissa directed it when it was always usually been her writing and directing her own stuff. And I hadn't written anything that got made since like 2005 or 6. 2006. No. Yeah, 2006. It's almost the 10-year... No, fuck, dude.
It's 14 this year. Next year's 15.
2006, yeah, 2006. So that was what Dutch was. Dutch was just kind of like this fucked up situation movie beyond what Patriot Zombie was. So then we made Street Meets Pavement. And where I was going with this
now we're getting somewhere
is after making Street Meets Pavement, Dakota he's like, hey, I want to be involved even more so. Not just like I want to have a bigger part in the movie or something like that. He's like, maybe helping out with writing or producing or anything like that. And so I called you and I said, or talked to you on Facebook. I was like, okay, we're going to do this meeting, this production meeting.
Right.
And talk to, because Dakota was here and Patrick's friend Rich was here, because him and Rich were going to make, Patrick and Rich were going to make like a cage for the cell scene at the end of the movie. So, like, and it kind of happened and ended before like you even got off work, so or something like that.
Yeah, I misunderstood our communication on Facebook, and you said 6, I thought 6:30, and I'm not huge on Facebook, and I wish that we could text more, which we're starting to do now.
I've got a huge problem with even talking to anybody, so like,
yeah.
But once I'm comfortable with doing it, it's all I want to do.
So
but then like sometimes it seems like the only way I can talk to you is on Facebook, because then you don't get back to me as quickly on through text as Facebook.
It depends on where I'm at in my day and what's going on, and home life is crazy right now because I've got a 2-year-old, and there's a lot going on, between work and having back surgery next week, so it's kind of a mess. But anyways, the communication broke down, and I ended up not being able to make it that day.
That day, but we got you the next day.
I came over, and Patrick and Ty were here. And we kind of.
I don't even really remember what we talked about. Just I gave you the script.
Yeah, we sat down and we didn't really read through it. It was kind of like
these are
taking notes off of the top of your head of what you remembered writing, or because you had just covered the material the day before, so you'd already been through the script with the cast. So we talked about at what points we were going to need special effects and what we were thinking. And we were throwing ideas back and forth at how we were going to do stuff and what we thought would be cool. And I think we got some more things out of that than were actually written in initially.
It's funny because like I'm thinking back on like the script, the way it's written, and not everything ended up being that way. Like especially the end, the one scene.
The one scene.
I'm sure that was a huge mess on your part, and we could even talk. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But
sure.
So from there, what did you start doing?
Watching a shitload of YouTube videos. I mean,
what was your main goal? Like, what were you thinking?
As far as doing the special effects or helping with the movie?
Just everything.
In general?
Yeah.
I was thinking, based on what you told me before about having to do everything yourself, and you're filming and you're acting and you're doing the special effects and you're doing the makeup, I wanted to take that off of you, not take it from you. I wanted to be able to create what you were seeing as a director, because your job is to have the picture in your mind and translate it to screen.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to impose my view of what it was supposed to be onto the screen. I wanted to translate.
Other people had that attitude.
And that's the thing. This is your movie, and even if you hadn't written it, you're directing it. So when you're directing, it's your picture. It's your creation that you're trying to create for the viewer. And when you have a picture in your mind, and you've seen this movie in your head already, you know what it's supposed to look like. So I went basically with the plan, like, I'm going to ask as many questions as I can about what you're thinking, how you see it working, and I tried to get an idea of where, what your frame was going to look like when you're framing up shots, what you had in mind for stuff like that, depending on the effect we were doing. And after watching most of Street Meets Pavement, because I'm a lazy bastard and busy, after watching that, I didn't have any problems with it. I just thought that, because we're coming up, as filmmakers, I wanted to help, this group, this company, if you want to call it that.
It is a company.
It is a company.
Production company.
The production company. I wanted to help improve the production quality as much as I could, because there were things that I saw that I was like, that was, maybe that's what they could do, that's what they could pull off, but what can we do to make that better next time? Mm-hmm. And that's the attitude I'm trying to take with the whole thing. With the next project, we got some shorts coming up that we've been talking about making, and I want to improve the quality of the shorts, or and building skills and stuff like that. Godsalt was my first ever attempt at doing anything like this, and I figured I could do it because I'm mechanically inclined.
Absolutely,
I can build just about
not.
anything, and I can see how things go together before we even build it. So that was my intent, was to create a skill set that would improve production quality, I guess.
And I will say that it certainly did. Absolutely, 100%. So what was the first thing that we did? What was your first day on set? Do you remember?
The first day on set was at Patrick's grandmother's house.
Okay, so it was the siege scene.
It was the siege, yeah. Which was kind of one of our bigger... I don't know if I would call it one of our bigger effect days.
It was like the first big effect day.
Yeah, it was
from there it was just we kept rolling with it.
Yeah,
because from there we went to Monday, we went to Virginia City, right? Yeah. Was it that same fucking run through?
Yeah, it was that same 1 or 2 week period. Yeah, weekend. It kind of ran together because it was like, because your days off are Monday, Tuesday. My days off are Saturday, Sunday,
and then the rest of the world.
Exactly. So, our scheduling together was like, you have the day off, so you're filming with the rest of the crew, and it's like, okay, we need to do this scene today with this person. So it's like, all right, I'm bolting over there right after work, or I'm trying to get off early,
Because that was a Friday night.
Friday night was when we did the siege, and then it was Sunday that we went to VC.
No, it was Monday.
Was it Monday?
Because that was not Veterans.
It was a holiday. That's why we had something. I had Monday off. So,
but we still didn't even get started until 6. Because other people were.
Sun was going down, and I'm like, are we even gonna get there with all this? It's insane.
And because we were waiting on Hannah, who was already up there.
Yeah. By the time we got up there, or by the time we figured out that she was already up there, it was like, we should have left a long time ago.
You know what? Even if we would have left sooner, because I've seen the scene.
Right.
The scene looks great the way it is, especially with the other footage.
I like the lighting. We ended up dark at the end of the scene because the sun
flows
went down.
Right there.
But it's a time, it's a time is carrying and the sun is going down. So when you're seeing this picture, it's like it's real time.
The sun's going down, real time right
and
there.
And it's kind of a trip that it worked out that way, and we end up with using tiki torches for lighting, which, maybe some production companies wouldn't have done that, but I think the lighting adds some cool mood to it.
Beyond that, the tiki torches were supposed to be part of like a ceremonial kind of. They got fires going, despite the fact that not having any extras but one.
That was tough. Extras were a big problem in the movie, like the whole time.
The entire time, because
the siege scene we actually had.
Thank God we had extras on that. We had 2 others that left because
we actually had 2 extra others.
Welcome to making movies,
Yeah, and we're making movies on a budget where we're not paying people.
Even if we were paying people, it's a matter of, but they would stay if we were paying them.
Yeah, if we're paying them, it's like that's how real movie making is. Everybody stands around on set waiting all day for their part,
and
they might sit there in makeup all day waiting for their film, for their scene to happen, and it doesn't happen that day. Then you go back to the trailer and you take all your shit off and go back the next day and try again.
Yeah.
Because if you're having trouble with effects, you're having trouble with this or that or the other thing.
Because making movies isn't like
it's not easy.
It's not a science.
It's not a science, and it's not easy. It's like painting or drawing. We're trying to create something where there is nothing.
The interesting thing on Godsalt that didn't necessarily happen on Streaming's Payment either, but like a lot of our other movies, you know, and in real movies too, people get the giggles, and sometimes they can't shoot a scene. It never really happened on Godsalt.
I know, and I was surprised. You know, we
I keep waiting for those moments to happen.
we watched the gag reel at the cast party.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for it because there were some. Anybody who's watched the gag reel from Street Meets, there's a few of them, I think.
There's a couple.
The one with Patrick and in the truck
Greg.
with
Patrick
Pat and Greg. That was probably one of the funniest. I mean, that was like Hollywood gag reel quality. You know what I mean? I mean, that could have been, you know, two of your biggest name actors.
Sean Penn and
and
Paul Walker.
it's sitting in the seat of this truck, you know, on a green screen,
On a green
trying
screen.
to get just spit out some simple lines.
And shit, and he's getting pissed off.
And he's like, "Fuck! I hate this line," you know. And I'm just, you're sitting there and you're laughing with him, and you're like, "Just spit it out, Patrick. Come on."
And of course, he does it when I'm not filming.
Well, sure. He's trying to practice on his own, and he gets it out, right?
Yeah, gets it out with like. Because that's usually how it works. Is like when you're not trying really hard, you can do it, and it's like, oh well, I wasn't filming on that one.
He's like, "Son of a bitch."
So
anyway, like I said, I wanted to improve the quality of what we were making because
well, that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about your first day.
My first day, yeah, the siege
scene.
The
So,
siege
like,
scene, yeah.
For you,
and that was kind of hectic because.
Oh, here I got a question that we could talk about.
Sure.
I know you mentioned it back then, but like I was in different places. So we were gonna use Patrick's little snub nose gun, right? For the blanks.
his 40 cal Smith & Wesson, and I searched high and low, internet and around town for
those size blanks
for 40 caliber blanks, and find out we have to special order those.
You got to special order them, or what about like even?
We could make them, but at the with our budget factor, I was willing to throw down some money, but I was trying to save my money for things that I knew we needed.
All right, well, let's say, so like making our own blanks, would that be a matter of like a one-time purchase on a piece of equipment, and then it'd just be like
because I own
smaller amounts.
I reload. I own reloading equipment for myself.
Okay.
So basically, it would be in addition to my current reloading equipment. It's just a die set that crimps the bullets over to make them blanks instead of bullets. But it's like an $80 or $90 thing, and at the time I was relatively strapped, but I had some extra cash to throw at the movie. So I was pretty much buying the stuff that I needed to do the effects I was pulling off.
That's how it always is with me too. It's like spending the money on what's needed opposed to...
Well, like and there were other ways I could do the effect instead of spending $80 on, you know, a die set to make blanks for the 40 cal. What I ended up doing was finding some 38 blanks that were locally available commercially and buying those, and then borrowing a pistol from a friend of mine.
Which was out a lot better because it also looks like a fake gun that I have.
It does, and that was one thing that kind of was serendipitous that way, because you have that other piece that looks like that, and I think it gets used in the movie elsewhere.
Yep, it's at the beginning.
It worked that we had the same looking pistol, and it worked out better that way, I think.
Well, that's good to know.
Multiple calibers of the same.
Like an $80, $90 piece of equipment to start making blanks on our own. I've got no problem spending money on that.
Then we can use any blank, you know, pistol that we want. We can use real guns, as far as revolvers and stuff like that. But that's regardless.
All right. So that's that. Also, that day we had to. I don't know if I want to talk about this because it's a little spoilery. With Robert.
With Robert.
Yeah.
I was a little spoilery, but I don't know. It's up to you.
I mean, okay, so that was another. So that day for you were the blanks.
The blanks.
Robert.
And
then we also had to set up the wall. So like.
Yeah, the wall was.
So we can talk about this because it's just basic special effects. You know, you shoot a gun at something, you put a hole through it.
You put a hole through it. And you have to make it look like you shot a hole in it.
Right, and.
Without actually shooting a hole in it.
Without actually shooting a hole in it, and like I'm not gonna say that my idea for it was like.
Your idea kind of, because like I said before, I wanted to see your picture in my mind and then try to create it in physical, which is my job. So, I don't know how deep you want to get into what
Well,
we
okay,
actually did.
So the reason why I had that idea in my head for the way it should look was because I saw it as not so much as the light from inside the house coming through the bullet holes outside the house, but I saw it more as like a godlight kind
Right,
of, which
and
is why we had the powder.
We were calling it the guided by the hand of God.
By the hand of God and whatnot. But it ended up just kind of being like, oh, well, it's just the light from inside the house.
It kind of came off that way.
I mean, it just looks like how it would look,
If you go too deep in thinking about it, you could go that direction. But
because the lights shooting out of it weren't like extreme brights.
Right.
Which I kind of saw them as kind of like laser beams in my head, essentially. Instead of but I mean, it looks perfect. It looks beautiful, and that was like one of the first things that I cut together and showed you.
Right, and
showed a couple people just to kind of like, this is what we're doing.
And I was blown away by the way the footage came off because
first time.
It was the first time. It was the first big thing. It would have been a nightmare to reset that scene, so I'm glad it worked the first time.
Well, I'm like, so what's the setup time like? And you're like, the reset time sucks.
Yeah, the reset time sucks. That was my exact words.
So I was like, okay, well, we only got to do this once, and it's like the end of the night. It was
the very last thing we shot.
People had been there doing nothing, waiting to get to their part, like all the extras that you brought on.
I felt bad about that.
Really?
I was like, come down at this time. There's going to be some pizza and hang out and stuff, and then it should be a couple hours.
I also
and then
feel
we're
bad
done.
about that too because they show up and we're still waiting on Patrick to get back.
Yeah, Patrick was waiting on or going to get pizza and water.
No, he was going to pick up Hannah.
That's right.
Because Hannah can't drive. And he did pick up pizza and water and shit like that. And Hannah didn't get off on time. And then when he does show up, it's like all hell breaks loose.
Well, fucking Iris and Patrick, they're like throwing water at each other and
I'm like, fuck. I'm waiting for them to get back. I understand, break time, eat some pizza, drink some water, refresh yourself. But then it's like,
get back to shooting.
Yeah, we need to get back to shooting, and like, your people, like, what did they say after the fact and everything else?
They had fun doing it, and I guess there's a difference because my friends are our age, so they're knocking on 30, and a lot of the other people, right? A lot of the people we were working with are, in their early 20s.
Well, let's see.
Which isn't it's not a huge age gap, but the maturity level, the way people act, the Patrick and Iris and the girls and all that, everybody farting around in there, and they're like throwing water at each other and playing, and we're like looking at them like, we should be in bed by now, like.
Well, the sun's gone. It wasn't too late when
it wasn't
Patrick
that late
showed
when
up.
that started happening, but they were kind of standoffish from the crowd because they didn't know anybody, which it was hard enough, when you don't know people. So my wife and her friends were the extras that I brought, and it was funny. Yeah, Varia jumped in because she didn't have a choice. We made her do it.
Yes.
My little brother declined, even though we could have had another extra, but. Regardless of the fact, he's 22, I think. 22. So he's similar age.
Similar age. Patrick's 23 now, I think.
Yeah.
Maria's 23 here pretty soon. Kelly's 22. Danny's our age. Danny's like 28.
Right.
Flanagan's 30.
Right.
And then Donna is 26 here in a couple of days.
Okay. So, I mean, the age gap's not huge.
No, but still, it's a bunch of young people playing a bunch of fucking old people who are, like, supposed to be detectives and everything like
right,
that.
Right, like, established professionals, and they're clearly not.
Well, thank God fucking Patrick's gone through a haggard life, and he's got the beard thing going, so it puts some years on him. It does. And same with Danny.
Yeah. Danny and Patrick look more the part than, say, Dakota. I think Dakota looks a little young. Just in these looks young in the face.
Especially since he's not professionally dressed in this movie.
In that movie, yeah.
opposed to the other movies where he's got a suit and tie on and everything
Right.
else.
And
like
I think that would have made it a little more believable, but
instead he's running around. Okay, so like the last day that we were filming the movie, that June 20th, kind of the last day. So we're hanging out at Patrick's dad's place all day long. Danny's got his suit on, Patrick's got his suit on and shit. And we're in and out of the house because they're smoking and we're waiting on this person and that person, waiting for this setup. And the guy across the street came over and asked Danny, like, we're cruising.
what's going on?
With what?
No.
Oh, yeah, no, the guy comes over and
Right.
he's like, is there a funeral or something? Is that what you guys doing? Did Fred die, Patrick's dad, or something
Right.
like that? Because they're all professional. Danny's got a black shirt on with his white or silver tie and everything like that. And then there's Dakota with the "You Mad Bro" t-shirt.
Right.
It's like, if there is a funeral, what's up with this fucking
guy,
clown?
right?
And we always gave Dakota shit every time we saw him because
You mad, bro?
we're always saying that to him. He's the least professionally dressed out of everybody and everything like that. And it's funny because he got real pissed off one day during Streaming's Pavement. Like, I think he was hungover, and we went over, woke him up, put him in the suit, took him outside, put him in the car, and it's hot, blistering summer day, and he's just like trying to wake up, trying to say these lines and shit, and he's getting pissed off, sweating bullets, and I'm like, okay, we gotta do it again, and Dakota's the one guy that'll probably fuck up the most, because he's not really an actor, but he's the kind of guy that loves doing new things.
Sure.
So it's like, hey, let's go fucking jump off a bridge. He's like, hell yeah, let's go do it.
Let's try it.
Because he loves going snowboarding. He loves doing all these fucking
Right.
sporty things and physical things. So it's like, I'm more in everything for the life experience of it all. And like, he can act, but like getting him to memorize lines and saying them without fucking up, it takes a couple of takes.
So, moving on to the timeline, I guess.
So then I guess
did,
Virginia City was the next day.
Virginia City was another relatively large day of filming, I think, because you had been filming all day already, hadn't you?
Not that day.
There was a couple of times when you had been filming all day, and then we got together and filmed some more in the evening.
Yeah, no, there were definitely days where I'm like, okay, I'm filming in the morning here with Dakota, and because we got to be downtown in the morning time, and we're on 4th Street, and we're filming. Robert doesn't show up, so we got to do that another 2 weeks later. There were definitely days that I filmed all day, and then hooked up with another couple people and filmed all night long. So,
so we go up to Virginia City. Everyone's showing up, faux pas, and all that happened.
Iris
we got
threatening
there.
to quit.
Unless you got kettle corn, which we blew and didn't get up there in time to get some. All the shops were closed. I was impressed with the location. I thought it was a fantastic place to film.
That's one of those locations that everyone gets impressed by.
And I've seen pictures, like some photography stuff that some of my friends had done before from there, and it's just it's so weird and it's eclectic. It has this feeling about it that you just don't get anywhere else. It's like being in a ghost town almost, but
definitely
it's something like that.
Like Danny's uncle said, like, hey, that's an awesome looking set. How'd you do that?
And that was one of those things that worked really well to our benefit.
It would have been nice to have filled that place with a bunch of fucking extras.
If we'd had 20 or 30 extra people, I would have been very happy with the way that, because it would have made the scene more impressive, as far. But we had to work with what we had.
Well, I mean, I don't know how I would have gotten away with what I got away with in that scene if there were like 20 people chasing after me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, hell, it might have looked fucking cool too. Like if you see me fucking like fighting off like 20 fucking people.
Yeah, it would have been kind of like Old Boy scene when they're in the subterranean and he's like banging the crap out of people with it. Anyway,
Carrying on.
That wasn't necessarily a big special effects day. I had spent a fair amount of time.
It wasn't huge, but it was
an important effect. And I had spent the whole day before that and the whole morning before that working on the stuff that I made for this particular scene, and it was my first let's just say it was my first experience using liquid latex and stuff like that.
Did you put latex on the...
I did. On the prop was actually coated with latex to give it a more realistic appeal, if you will. And it wasn't the most realistic...
mysterious talk.
It wasn't the most realistic or genuine looking prop that I
have you seen that
have ever
scene?
made. I haven't seen the scene, and I'm interested by it because
It looks good.
the things that the effects that I've done, I haven't seen all of the film from the effects I've done.
Let me say this. So I put the movie together, start to finish.
Right.
Looks good. I love it. I love the way it looks. It's an awesome movie. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of everything. You guys, all my actors, everyone that put effort into it. And then Greg comes over and he starts editing it, and it looks that much better. So something that already looks awesome looks even better.
Awesomer.
It looks awesomer. So like I get more excited every time, and like one thing that I love that happens all the time is like you write the scene and you know that that's going to be one of those scenes that people are either going to gasp at, cry at, whatever, get emotionally involved with this scene. And then I put it together and I'm like, oh, definitely. And then maybe I'll add some sound effects. Yes.
Even better.
Add some music to it to put emotional, tell what the audience to think. And it's like, holy shit.
And by the time you get done with all the pieces of, you know what,
everything that it needs.
Everything it needs to be complete, it makes your skin crawl when you watch it.
Yeah,
and
it really does.
Those are the feelings we're trying to get from people when we're creating a movie.
This whole movie is going to be like that because I'm watching it and literally like every 5 minutes, every few beats is another fucking turn in the movie, another fucking twist, another thing that you don't see coming.
And that's the 10-minute bell.
It literally kind of is a 10-minute bell. But yeah, like there's something new that's happening every 5 minutes.
So the movie's pretty fast-paced all the way through.
It's fast-paced. Some of those 2 hours, we've got it down to an hour 45, and we're still.
That's a lot closer to what you wanted. I think you wanted about an hour 30.
I want an hour 45.
Hour 45.
And now I'm starting to get worried that it may get to an hour 30 or less. I'm hoping that it doesn't.
But you know what? I think if we've been talking about doing some film festivals with it, you have one in mind particularly that you want to send it to.
We lost that one.
Way lost it.
Yeah,
There's always next year.
July 20th.
There's always next year.
Well, I mean, no, we can shoot for that one,
yeah.
but we'll and on top of that, Godsalt is it's not really a horror movie.
It's not as horror-ish.
It's a crime movie that has horror elements.
It's a crime drama with horror elements.
Well, horror elements and some funny lines.
Sure.
I laugh my ass off every time I watch it.
Sure. So, is it? Is there like ups and downs? Like you 1 minute you're like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, happy, and then it's like, oh.
It's like all downhill, dude.
It's all down. It's like a fucking train wreck that just keeps piling on itself.
Yes.
Until you get to the end and you're like, this is the fucking worst thing that could have happened ever.
No, yeah.
And then it's like, how could this get any worse? And then it does.
It's not so much that how could it get any worse, but what are they gonna do next? And then they do something again.
Exactly.
I'm really, really curious to see how the audience reacts to how I end this fucking movie. And you know what I'm talking about?
I absolutely know what you're talking about, and that's the part that trips me out. Is like, how are people gonna receive that ending? I think it would have been fun to write or to film an alternate.
Other than that,
other than the way we ended it, just and not actually like as a gag alternate, maybe where it's like a total letdown, maybe or maybe you're extra surprised at the ending. I don't know. We'll talk about the actual idea I have for it maybe later.
I think I did have a fucking alternate ending. Oh yeah, because we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it after the podcast. So that's Virginia City, right. And what was like the biggest problem in Virginia City? Was it the light, like losing the sun?
Besides the lack of extras, losing the sun was probably our biggest technical difficulty, just because we were having trouble getting shots due to low light, and we were having to kind of shoot from the hip on a couple of scenes. Like you're like we're running around with the camera and like, come over here, you're on script, and we're like screaming at each other. And it's like, bring those torches over here, and then like me and Danny are carrying torches around, and they're like lit. We're like, should we be carrying these fucking torches around the sagebrush while they're lit?
It's literally like, and I'm like, when I'm filming the thing on the ground, and I'm like trying to hold the torch, and like it's pouring out of
it's dripping flames, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's dripping flames, but there's definitely something leaking out, and whether it was lit and just went out when I hit the ground. And I'm like, there's like sagebrush that's right underneath the torch that I'm holding as it's dripping and everything.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? Someone hold this for me before I set this place on fire.
Well, and there were like 6 people standing around you watching you film.
And nobody offered to grab that.
And I was standing next to you. I grabbed the torch and I'm like holding it over and wearing this stupid wig. I think I wore that like way too long because my head got itchy.
That's weird.
It was fun.
It's weird.
It was funny. I was trying to do it to get a rise out of people.
Yeah, clearly, that's why anybody does anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a showboater. I like attention.
So also, memorizing lines was another
that
one.
was, and I don't know if that was a problem with people getting the script early enough. Or actually spending the time because on memorizing their own shit.
Hannah was supposed to be somebody else in the movie, and it was last minute, day of. That we were filming the siege scene that I was like,
you know what,
Kate,
switch.
Kate, I'm gonna have to let you go because she wasn't able to film until like the beginning of July.
Oh wow.
So I was like, Kate, we have the opportunity to film all of the master's scenes and I can't do it, so I gotta give it to somebody else. So I was like, Hannah, you're now the master. So she just found out that she was gonna be the master, and she never really had a script to begin with.
Like, yeah, we spent a lot of the movie with her a script in the hand.
Just seeing it for the first time.
Seeing it for the first time and reading it, and we did a lot of cutting around her lines, so that we could, give her the line, she would feed it back, and then we were like feeding lines as we were shooting the scene that actually made it into the movie.
Yeah.
And it was like,
and Flanagan, like, he's memorizing his monologue probably before we even started, and then he's memorizing the entire trip up to Virginia City, and he does it in one take.
And he's an actor.
He is an actor.
I would wager to call him a professional.
Sure.
Because he does act quite often. So, and
Hannah is too, which is why I was kind of blown away.
I thought she would pick some of that up a little quicker, but if she had never seen it before that time,
sure,
and she didn't have her own script, it's hard to work around stuff like that.
But also, I think what she normally does too is a little bit different than not just stage the film, but the type of acting that I require of my actors is a lot different than I'm sure they do it a lot like this in movies too. Like, I don't think people memorize their lines unless you've got like an asshole director that's like, memorize these lines. Well, I think it's a lot like how it is.
Sure. And I mean, I think we probably memorize more lines from movies than the actual actors do.
Yeah, because we watch them over and over again.
Exactly.
It's easy that way.
And when they're making a movie, it's like, okay, here's your thing, and you're going to say this, and that's where ad-libbing and shit comes from.
Right, and then there's also a lot of actors that just throw out the script, and they're like, I'm just going to say what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Everyone's got different styles. Some people memorize the script, some don't even look at it.
And if it's an important line that needs to be there,
the
then
director
feed it
will
to
be
him.
like, yeah, this is what you got to fucking do, asshole.
Right, this is what you're going to say, and you're going to fucking like it. So after Virginia
City,
what did we do?
Your next
It was
thing,
a jumble from there. It was like a stumbling, staggering sprint to the end.
Yeah, because it's like, you really want to film. Like, I don't even know anymore. Like, do I want to get the big scenes out of the way at the beginning? Do I want to get the big scenes out of the way at the end? Like, I know Virginia City, I was dreading filming all that stuff because I didn't know about cops or anything else like that.
Yeah, and we actually, to throw this in there a little bit, we didn't have the cops show up at all this time.
Cops never showed up on this movie.
Which I was surprised because when we were doing, just to jump back to the
We did have
siege,
a cop incident, though.
Did we?
When your tire got flat.
Oh, yeah, when we were coming off the hill. That was towards the end of filming. That was like the last day, or one of the last days. So we did Virginia City, and then we went to, what was the next time I showed up? I helped out with some minimal green screening and stuff in the garage.
Okay, so the green screen thing you were there for, I had you set that up.
Yeah, and that was, like I said, it was a skill builder for me.
And now I've got two green screens.
To figure out
the new one sitting right there.
Yeah.
On the ground.
And that was interesting to me so we could see what we had to work with, what we should have to work with.
What's cool is, like, right now where we're editing, we're at the green screen stuff, and, like, Greg has pulled out the green, and I'm like, that looks pretty good. Because I've just been seeing it with the green, and I'm like, okay.
That looks awful.
And I felt that way with the last movie, too. And then Greg puts it together, and I'm like, oh my god. This is amazing.
Right. So then, like I said, I see what we have, what we need, and what we should have.
Well, the only thing with the green screen,
the things I can do to improve that. That's kind of where I was sitting with the whole helping with the green screening stuff that day.
I wanted to shoot every single driving thing legit, which is what I want to do on Serene's Pavement. But Greg's like, no, we're doing green screen, gas, and everything else. And so it's like, well, these shots take place at night, and I know it'll be a bitch to deal with focusing, deal with lighting, making sure you're seeing everything, especially with, like, if they don't have their lines, trying to read them to the person while we're driving at night and have them looking over and trying to drive safe and everything else like that. I was like, no, this has to be green screen.
Right.
And it looks good.
The other thing that we talked about before the movie started, I hate, like you said, you hate backtracking, but we talked about Patrick and I actually towing the car on a trailer.
Oh yeah, we did, didn't we?
And doing that live, so you could do live.
I think it was just all of the driving stuff.
All the driving stuff on a trailer, so we could shoot it live action. But we never tried it.
I forgot all about them in that.
We had the idea, and then it never came back up. You guys we went straight to green screen because you guys had experience with that. Maybe we could throw that in there in the future and see how it looks. Maybe we could throw it in a short and see what we can come up with.
Trailering a
I've got a trailer in a truck that
I'll write something.
You know, maybe we could just do a car scene. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
Because then you could do whatever you want in the car, and it doesn't.
Well, then we're also going to need that mount that I asked you to build for me too.
Which I actually have a plan drawn for it.
Cool.
So.
Well, I mean, also like even just beyond the night stuff, we were thinking about pulling a car too. So when it came to driving, it was just a matter of like, okay, we got IRS, we'll go do the car stuff. And, you know, I got like Donna's stuff. Me and Kelly and her had to just we had to shoot over to JCPenney's while she was on her lunch break, quickly shoot all this stuff, and then get her back to work before the half an hour was over with. So like there are scenes in the movie where it's just like these were filmed during a half an hour period.
Yeah, and everything was time crunched like that. You know, everybody's got a schedule, and we're trying to work around
everyone's schedule was off the wall. And one thing I always talk about is Kelly leaving for this whole week, coming back for another week, and then leaving for another week. And like she's like the second lead for the most part. Yeah, and I'm like, you're leaving for a week, and you know everything is fucked up as it is. Can't ever get a hold of Robert. You know, Flanagan's kind of hard to get a hold of too, and like other people, it's just impossible to get a hold of. The only people who are always available, beyond Patrick, because Patrick's done this plenty of times before to know the score, were Iris, who doesn't have a job, and Danny, who doesn't have a job. They were the only other two people who, whenever I needed them, they were there. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, and then after we did the car stuff, we did...
I don't remember what little days that you were around. I just remember the big ones. So, like, the rest stop.
The rest stop was another big day for us.
I should show you that. I'm going to show you some stuff when we're done. Do you want to see some stuff?
I would. No, I'd like to.
Okay.
Because seeing it all put together is going to be a totally different experience anyway.
Okay.
But the rest stop was another one where the particular prop that I was making.
Well, before the prop even, like the rest stop day, we have a lot of people with us. We've got Iris. We've got Robert. You had to pick up Robert.
I had to actually pick up Robert from work, like across town, like 5 miles out of my way from going to your house to get, and then I had to go home to get my stuff.
Oh, you had to go back to Cold Springs.
Oh, I went to Cold Springs with Robert because I thought, I was like, I'm going to call you, say, hey, dude, head on your way, because I thought we were just going to the rest stop. I had no idea that you guys had to go to another place, shoot a scene there, and shoot the scene coming.
Oh, that's right, because I needed Robert for that scene.
Right, and I had to bring you Robert. If I had known that, I just dropped him off, and you guys could have done your thing. But we were also waiting for Dakota.
Yeah,
who at the same time
showed up last.
Showed up at pretty much the same time I did.
Okay, so it wasn't. So it
worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't. I'm always thinking, how can we save time? How can we hurry up and make something happen?
And Robert, who was drinking.
He had been drinking before I picked him up.
Before you picked him up, I had
And
to
then
stop and get some alcohol.
He stopped and he says to me, he says, "Hey, bro, do you want anything at the store?" He's like, "I want to stop and get something to drink." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." He's like, and then we get there. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna get a pack of cigarettes, just because I know we're going to set. And every time I go to set without a full pack of cigarettes, I always run out. And that pisses me off because I have to stand around a lot, and I'm nervous about my stuff that I have coming up, and I'm nervous about it working. So it's like one of those nervous twitch things that people smoke. Ask Patrick, he knows. But so we pull up to the gas station just down the street from my house, and I go to get out, and he goes, "Don't worry about it, dude. I'll get it." He's like, "You want anything else? You want some like chips or Gatorade or whatever?" I was like, "Nah, I got a full Gatorade right here." He's like, "Just pack smokes is good." He's like, "Okay, cool. I'll be right back." So I'm like, all right, dude's doing me a solid for picking him up from work. He goes inside. I had no idea that he's in there picking up the little tiny bottles of liquor, little vodka bottles and shit. And we show up over here. He's being goofy the whole time. And I'm like, oh, dude's kind of just happy. I'd only ever met him one time. And apparently he was straight at that point. But
yeah, he wasn't drunk that day.
He had been having some trouble with some stuff in his life. And he was drinking a lot that day, and he was pretty much fucked up the whole time.
Yeah, no, he was loopy the entire time, and I'm like, oh shit, like because I was driving up with him in Dakota, and he was fucking loopy that entire time. And then on the way up to fucking the rest stop, we stopped at the gas station, and he got more. He got more alcohol. Wow. And he was drinking it, and then before we left the rest stop, he's like, "Here, have some,"
And you're like,
I was like, "Okay."
Okay.
I drank.
Now that we're done,
he's like, "Have some more." I'm like, "Fine," and then I gave it back because I told him that I like a vodka. So he's like, "Oh, okay." So he picked up vodka.
Wow.
So we were at the rest stop,
and I was waiting for the police to stop or for a trucker to come over while we were filming that scene in over the side of the parking lot.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Let's. I don't mind talking about. Yeah. Okay. We probably shouldn't talk about this scene, but like, I'll show it to you. It looks amazing. Especially there are some like, the accidental things that we got out of it make it that much more impactful. But the effects that you did looked great. Even the first one that we did, like you said,
see, and after we did the effect, we're already on set, and then like I get this idea in my head, and I'm like, I should have done it this way, and everybody's like, dude, that would have been so much easier. And I'm like, I know, fuck. I'm like, I had all this equipment and like really heavy shit.
Blew me right out of the water, and I'm like, oh shit, what's this huge fucking thing sitting in here?
So I bring all this stuff, and I have this plan, and I'm trying to pull it off. It's like I've seen it done on videos. I'm gonna do it. It was set up right. I wasn't happy with the way it came off to the naked eye. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I didn't think it looked that great, and then you said it looked.
It looks good. The sound was like, but we fixed the sound.
Sound's one of those things that you can always do more with.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just pulled the sound out. Greg put something over it. And
sure,
it's good.
That's cool, but that killed me having that idea after we did it, and like, because that was a chore to get everybody out there.
It was because it was
a
like
fucking
an
hour away. We had I think all of us thought it was a lot closer than it was, and we ended up driving for.
And going in the other direction, it's just as long.
It is,
okay,
because you have to drive past Truckee to get there, and you're like 30-40 minutes to Truckee.
Well, you've got this one, and then you've got leaving out past Sparks, going east, and then you've also got the one on 80 west. There's a really cool one going east, but I think those toilets, it's just a hole in the ground. Yeah, it's just a metal toilet with a hole in the ground. Okay,
and that's as far as we need to go with that discussion.
So that's that, and then
there was some stuff that I wasn't there for. The arrows.
Right, you came up with a couple of gags for us to do.
Sure.
That I had to do without you, that Kelly had to go and pick up.
I was at work, and I hadn't finished them.
Well, those were such hectic days back to back that I was like, fuck. It's the morning the next day, and I'm like, shit, I was supposed to get this thing from Cory last night and talk to him about it, and I forgot to, and I was like, fuck, now it's day of, and I'm like, well, fuck.
Well, and you were like, it was almost like going to shut the thing down or change it.
I was going to
and you're going to have to change it to something else.
We kind of mixed it together, in fact.
Yeah.
It was going to be a badass fight scene, and that's how it was going to be. And then we were able to get the things
props,
from you,
right.
and so like we put them both together.
That's good. So
You
that
haven't
was.
seen that yet either,
I haven't
have
seen
you?
that either.
Okay.
In fact, I haven't seen film from most of the stuff that I did, and
Which is cool, because I can show you some things and ask your opinion on them.
I kind of wanted to see them edited. Is why I waited. I didn't want to see the raw.
Yeah.
Because raw to me, you just watch it and you're like, eh.
Oh,
It looks like I saw it when we did it.
Exactly.
So then it's like
exactly.
it's not it's not special at that point. But this is a whole nother podcast we could do another day. But when we talked about editing being the glue that sticks a movie together, we talked about that for like a half an hour after the scene at the gym that we probably don't want to talk about right now.
At the gym. All right. Okay. So fuck. We're talking about editing. Okay. Editing.
Yeah. So I mean, when you see the raw film, it doesn't look any different.
No, it's almost like
It's almost a waste of time to watch it.
it really
Until you're gonna edit it.
Oh my god, it's such a waste. The gag reel is a waste of time to watch because like.
Watching
I
stuff
put it
for
all
gags.
here, and I'm looking down here, and I'm like, oh, there's an hour's worth of stuff here that I've just got to watch, and I know it's nothing.
Right.
And it's like, well, maybe there's some gold in there, and then there's not, and it's like, fuck, because I've got like 5.5 hours of footage to still go through for a gag reel, and like Extremist Pavement, I stopped doing a gag reel. Like I've got like maybe a minute's worth of gag reel stuff for a main gag reel, because like. All the card game stuff went to like 3 minutes plus, and I was like, well, that's a gag reel on itself. The green screen stuff, those were all gag reels in and of itself. And then I was just like, I don't want to go through the rest of the stuff. And the rest of the stuff is like the funnier things, like because Kelly and Patrick kissing for the first time ever, like that was the first person she'd kissed in 3 years outside of her boyfriend, and like I just met Kelly. This is her first movie, Extremist Pavement, and like I'm asking her to kiss this dude
that she's never met.
Really. No. She knew Patrick.
Oh, she knew Patrick.
She's known him for
Okay.
years. They went to school together. So like, and asking her to do it multiple times, close up, from this angle, kissing Patrick, bringing him in, and on top of that, right before shooting, Patrick's like, "Oh, it'd be great if you were biting on my lip when we do this." So on top of that, he adds that in there, and like, it has the best fucking gag reel thing in it because. Like, it looks like she's gonna go in for him, but she like holds back for a second before going in for the kiss, so it catches him off guard. And when she goes in for the kiss, he starts laughing and kind of blows into her mouth, and they just fall onto the bed and just start laughing their ass off. And I'm laughing my ass off because I only hear it because I'm on the ground holding the boom mic, and I just hear it and I know what's happening, and I just start laughing my ass off. But we watched that one over and over again and just laughed at it because it's fucking funny. And no one has ever seen it except for like me, maybe Kelly, Patrick, and Greg.
Right. So then...
That's editing. So, okay, so then the rest stop, and then the stuff that you weren't there for, and then there was the last day. You weren't there for the last day, were you?
The last day, the one up north, shall we say.
So once again, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Oh no, okay, no, you were there for that day. So that was the other day.
The second to last day because you went up and finished the scene.
There's a woods scene that's shot in the trailer. Have you seen the newest trailer?
Yeah, the one with Patrick. Is it newer than the one?
It's the one that's got the Marilyn Manson version of Sweet Dreams.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
You haven't seen that
No.
one? Okay, yeah. So
We'll have to watch that.
we see the woods stuff in that
Okay,
that
so
trailer.
in the woods, I was there for the first day of the woods shooting, and then the second day, I think the next day, with AJ.
You weren't there for that.
I wasn't there for that. Yeah, you guys had to go up there and do that, but I wasn't there. And that was my last day filming. Was when we went up and shot in the woods.
Was it really?
It was.
No, it wasn't.
No,
it wasn't because the scene that I ended up taking out of the movie, you bought that thing to blow.
Oh,
up
yeah.
for the landmine.
Since it's not in the movie, the explosion.
Yeah, the landmine explosion.
We were trying to replicate like a
No, it
landmine.
looks really, really good in real life. On screen,
it's not big enough.
It looks so much smaller.
It's not big enough.
Well, on top of that, there's like have you seen the Aviator with
No.
Leonardo DiCaprio?
Oh, yeah, a long time ago.
Because he's shooting all these airplane footage.
The movie's about making
The movie's
airplane films.
Yeah, I mean it's a true story, but like he's shooting all these airplane films, And he's like, they're going really, really fast, but you can't tell because there's nothing behind them.
I was always going to say, it's like race cars. When you're watching like a drag racing from the grandstands, it looks like they're going about 25 or 30 miles an hour. If you're in the car, it's like, whoop, and you're going. You know what I mean? So like a big explosion in person is a little fucking firecracker. Like it literally looked like an M80 on screen.
Probably what we needed was a little bit of flash.
We needed, saying that, and we were trying to be careful with not starting any fires, and so we were trying to use something
all it just
kind of
looks like
safe.
is a big explosion and a bunch of dirt going everywhere. It like we said, it looks great in person, but you need something to give it some perspective. So that was the only problem with that, but that wasn't the problem with the scene. Why it didn't make it in the movie? The reason it's not in the movie is because it didn't flow well where it was at.
Sure.
And this movie's full of flashbacks to begin with. I don't know why I always write flashbacks.
They're fun.
They are fun, but I think it's a filler thing with me. But on top of that, I like taking people places and into people's heads and all over the place. Like, I like to put more into the viewer's experience than some other movies.
Just what you see on the screen.
Yeah.
Like, I think you get robbed in a lot of movies because you see this person come on the screen and they do this thing, and you only get as much backstory as you need for the story to happen. And I wish there were a way.
And a lot of it, that's just them talking.
Sure.
Opposed to even showing it.
Exactly, and you hear a story about what happened to somebody, or maybe there's a flashback and you get to see a little bit of their background. But you get robbed of character depth because character development, and not in a horrible way where it makes the movies worthless, but
if you're really involved in
that character, you're like, well, where did he come from? How did this happen? Where did he come from? How did he come up into the place where he's at? And I always wonder, it's like everybody wonders what happens after the happy ever after or after the end of the movie. It's like, what happens to that guy? What does he do?
There's this funny, do you ever listen to podcasts other than clearly we're podcasts?
Actually, I just got into podcasts because you were telling me about you do these.
Smodcast. Have you started listening to Smodcast? Kevin Smith. There's this older one that he did, and he's talking about Speed. He's like, what happens after Speed? You got Sandy Bullock and Keanu Reeves. They're kissing there in the bus at the end, or the train at the end of the movie. It's like, okay, they get together, they experience this thing, but what happens when because they just met each other. So
they've only known each other for less than 6 hours or 8 hours.
Clearly they're in love because they're making out on the train. But what if they get into it and they're talking and suddenly they have no interest?
And that's the stuff that you don't get after the movie's over. I wish there was a place where you could create this universe of main characters from all those movies you've seen, and they all live in the same universe. You have Sandy and Keanu Reeves, and they live in this thing, but you go visit these places just after the movie.
Just kind of pull something up and see what's going on.
Yeah, and you see how these people are interacting with each other, or how this person's life is progressing after this effect, or after this movie.
Well, even if you could even go to maybe the writer who created it and be like, what do you think happened, or what in your head, where do you think they go from here?
Right. And
I love doing that. I love talking about that.
The only place that I think we've gotten any of that, I mean, maybe not the only place, but one of the places outside of sequels, and it actually is a sequel that comes to mind, is Terminator 2 to Terminator 3, where you go from John Connor as a young boy, and he lowers Arnold into the lava, into the molten steel, and then you're like, he's crying, and they're okay, and then you go to 3. And there's this big time gap, which is fine because
his mother's dead now.
His mom dies of cancer, leukemia.
Okay, now hold on a second here. I've never watched the TV show Sarah Connor Chronicles. But I know that clearly she's alive in it. He's alive in it.
Right.
And then there's another Terminator. I don't know what the continuity is of that.
Neither do I. And I don't know if they're even connected, to be honest with you.
Right. The Sarah Connor standalone of that world somewhere else.
And that's what a lot of the stuff was like. They were talking about doing another Terminator set where this is not necessarily connected.
Is that what they're saying about the new one?
The new one. Because
Arnold's going to be in it.
Yeah, he was in Salvation too.
They put his face on the dude.
Exactly, but they put him in the trailer like he's going to be something, and then his fucking face is CG'd onto a Terminator body for about a 2-minute fight.
Yeah.
Which, that's fine, but they made it seem like he was a big part of the movie, and he wasn't.
I never got that at all. I knew that he wasn't going to be.
Yeah. But anyway, so when you go to T3,
She's dead.
the very beginning of the movie, you get John Connor. He's been off the grid for
picking up a job here and there where he can.
But he's off the grid. He's drinking. He's got a, whatever. All the problems he has, and he's mentally fucked up because now he's like his mom. He's mentally fucked because of the way this all went down, and they think they changed his, the future by, destroying the Terminators, and they take care of that stuff, keeping himself off the grid and not getting, and essentially taking out Skynet, and then, T3 they bring out.
They're the ones that, like, they kind of start it, don't they?
The humans do it themselves, or anyway, they start it, and it's basically it turns into a virus, and it takes over the internet, and then it's like, Skynet becomes self-aware.
Well, we should wrap up this episode.
No, that was fun.
So let's. So your last day was the wood stuff, right?
Woods.
No, it was the shooting the explosion
blowing
thing.
up the
And that was a fucking heck of a day because me and Patrick almost came to blows out there on the
you
fucking
guys
mountain.
were fucking going at it, and I'm like, seriously, guys? Want to just calm the fuck down, blow something up, and go home and drink some beer?
That was seriously the last day too.
Yeah.
I filmed all the last stuff that day. I did have to grab Danny for one more thing.
You had to go film after we got done, and that's why we were in a hurry.
Well, but like even then, that like after that another day, I needed Danny so we could film the car driving away for the siege scene, and then I needed some of his voice also. So that was the last day, and me and Patrick came to blows, and that was probably like because I don't really talk to Patrick anymore.
Haven't talked to him since.
I talked to him once.
Well, you guys were at the cast party.
We were at the cast party, but after that, like. We got into a little thing a little bit later after that, and he was kind of pissed me off at the cast party a little bit, too.
I love Patrick, but he's a hothead, and
he's a super hothead.
He is, and I'm not talking shit about Patrick.
Absolutely
I love Patrick.
Absolutely
he's just
not.
His person, the guy he is. He's a fucking hothead, and when he gets off, when he is set off, he's off.
Right. I mean, he's very passionate about the things that he loves, but he's also very passionate in a negative way too.
He can be. I agree with that.
But we almost came to blows on that day.
So that was almost last day of filming.
And then, like, I was trying to joke around with him at the cast party. Like, I was like, I don't know, I'd like trying to make a bet or something on a pool game or something like that. He's like, what about like a slap bet? If you lose, I slap you in the face. He's like, no, if you slap me in the face, I might fucking hit you or something like that. And I was like, seriously, dude?
He has like Hulk rage issues, and he'll admit it.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway, so last thoughts on the whole experience for you?
I had an absolute blast making the movie. I think it was good for me spiritually. I want to say because it got me out of the box. It got me thinking about other things. I'm stoked about prop making and doing some stuff like that. I got a couple of personal projects that I'm infatuated with at the time, so I'm trying to increase my skill set. We've been talking about a couple of prop ideas for I think Comic-Con and maybe some other shorts and movies and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then I've got some other friends that had some ideas of props that I could make, and just trying to recreate some stuff that's already been done, and then pushing further into making my own stuff and maybe creating stuff for our worlds that we're building in movies.
Definitely.
And I'm like I said, I'm totally into it right now. I've got a bunch of equipment.
Well, let's
I've
hope
got
that
a bunch
I
of
don't just
ideas.
stop making movies.
If you stop making movies, I'll find somebody else.
There you go. There you go.
If you break up with me, I'll just keep doing it without you.
There you go. Well, I mean, it wouldn't just be me breaking up with you.
It
would be me breaking up with myself and everything else and everybody else.
But like I said,
I don't talk to anybody anymore. Nobody talks to me anymore.
I talk to you.
You talk to me, but clearly I pissed off Patrick. I know I pissed him off, and I was pissing Kelly off the entire production of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, we were really good friends last year. We became really good friends through Streaming's Payment. And then this year, shit just went the exact
stop
opposite
being fucking
way.
antisocial and start hanging out with people.
It's not so much that. It's more to it than that. So,
of course it is.
No, of course
There's always more to it.
There's always more to it.
So, anyway.
Like
I said, it was good for me emotionally and spiritually, and just as a person. Like, this whole experience was good because I met a lot of people that I didn't know before. And they don't exactly call me up and invite me over to dinner every week, but it was cool to work with other people that I'm not used to working with.
Well, see, now you've got that post filmmaking depression going on.
I do. I
because
miss
everyone.
everybody.
Everyone just goes away.
Everybody leaves, and I haven't seen Patrick. I haven't really seen you until today. We kind of.
I've seen you a couple times. I've seen you about once a week.
Yeah, because we're like, oh, I'm gonna come over and drop this off, or whatever. But
we're trying to make a short movie.
we're gonna short,
I
so
hope it's fucking. Don't want to talk about it.
yeah, we won't talk about the short. That's a whole nother fucking thing. But
yeah,
you and I are still
gone
connected,
away.
but we live like 10 minutes
We
away
live
from
pretty
each
close.
other,
We live pretty
which
close.
is handy.
Yeah.
And we hung out with
Casey and Allie and
Casey and Allie and
Patrick.
Dakota last
Black
night.
Patrick.
Black Patrick. Black Trick.
Black Trick. Yeah, we did that last night.
So I think we need to, as far as your post-production depression goes, we just need to keep in touch with each other and keep making projects.
But sometimes you get too close, like with everybody. Everyone gets so close that they're just like, I need a break from people right now.
And I think that's probably what's going on with everybody else. It's like I spent way too much fucking time and money and efforts with everybody right now.
This was
Let's just back off.
I mean, me being full on director mode with this movie, I was kind of a huge asshole at times.
I think people are going to expect that though, and I don't think you have any reason to believe that people won't work with you again. But it may preclude them from wanting to hang out with you on a regular basis.
That's fine.
But as a director, I think you did a fairly good job doing that kind of shit. I mean, it's hard to tell people what you want them to do. When you have a vision and poor communication skills.
Greg asked me this, like, how was it working with, a little girl, a child? I was like, it was great. She did everything I asked. It was working with Patrick and Kelly that was the pain in the ass.
Except trying to get Iris to lay in the dirt. She was not happy about that.
She fucking did it, though.
She did it, though, but she complained
you
about
got
the
blood in my hair, you idiot!
Not in my hair!
That's what the joke was.
That was the joke.
I was trying to tell somebody what the joke was. I was like, there was this joke that I kind of made, and then Cory made it, and then Maria started laughing, and I was like, well, fuck. He stole my joke.
Yeah, well, I said if I had a nickel for every time I heard that from a girl.
Yeah. And I said that before you said it,
Did you
though.
say it? I didn't hear you.
say
Maybe
it.
she didn't hear you either.
But
I've one
and
of
then
those.
you said it, and she fucking, like a mile
Maria
away,
was
starts fucking laughing her ass off.
Yep.
That was the fucking joke. I was trying to tell somebody what the joke was, and I was like,
well,
what
now
the
you can
fuck?
go back and tell them.
Because you did also make the other joke when we were at Danny's parents' place, because he had the beard and Olivia was talking, like Olivia and Kelly were talking about like kissing.
Oh
somebody
yeah,
with the beard and
kissing
hair
somebody,
in their mouth.
like getting hair in their mouth, and then I said, "Now you know how we feel." If you catch my drift, you know what I mean?
Right. With our dirty jokes here.
Right.
Well, thanks for sitting down with me, Cory.
Thanks for
Clearly,
having me.
we could talk.
We could
forever.
talk for hours and hours.
Yeah.
I think.
That's Sequel Podcast. I'm Matt Bonta.
Cory Easley.
Stay classy, Reno.